Did you know there is a store in Logan where you can confidently use your HSA or FSA to buy the medical supplies your family needs? I'm Zach at HSA Depot, where you can conquer your health care. Celebrate National HSA Awareness Day this Saturday at HSA Depot and receive a free $20 first aid kit that you can use in your home, car, or recreational vehicle. Come in this Saturday, October 15th, between 10 and 2 for a free first aid kit at HSA Depot, right next door to Jay's Jungle. HSA Depot, 5-star review.
The best girls soccer in the state is being played right here in northern Utah. On Saturday, top-ranked Mountain Crest hosts number 9 Logan, while second-ranked Ridgeline hosts 7th-ranked Skyview in the 4A girls soccer playoffs. Both games will be video streamed with live play-by-play on Cache Valley Daily Saturday afternoon starting at 1. It's the Mustangs versus the Grizzlies and the Riverhawks versus the Bobcats. Saturday at 1 on CacheValleyDaily.com.
News Talk 610 AM 102.1 FM KVNU.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only 2 things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. If that makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
Good morning, 8:06. Smack dab in the middle of October, October 15th. Here we are.
Can you believe it? It's the middle of October already.
Yeah, where's the year gone?
It's crazy. I was outside gathering up my squash this week in the garden and kind of picking up hoses and gathering up soaker hoses and tomato trellises. I mean, my tomatoes are still going crazy, but some of our other plants that we trellised, it's time to clean those up too. But I was just kind of thinking about it. It's like, man, it's like done.
Yeah.
Growing season's pretty much about there. So,
but it's been extended this year, right? Because
for sure. Yeah.
We've had just this long stretch of days in the 70s, lows in the mid 30s generally, but this morning we hit 31.
Yeah, kind of chilly. We probably had some frost damage in the valley today, but yes, a nice extended season. I mean, we had a slow start to the season, so it's kind of nice to have a little bit of an extension at the end. If we'd had a early frost the 20th of September, that would have really shut everybody down quickly. But we're getting a half a bushel to a bushel of tomatoes every week off our tomatoes because we're still getting mid 70 degrees for daytime temperatures, even though it's cooling down at night. We've taken some steps to get those tomatoes to ripen up, so they're ripening. I picked 3 or 4 cucumbers the other day. All the squashes are ready to go. I started digging carrots, and it's just the harvest that's coming out of the garden right now is amazing.
And I posted on social media this week, a year ago, we had the monster snowstorm.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine said, "Oh, you scared me for a second. That was a year ago." I was thinking, how could we get snow with 70 degrees?
No, not this week.
Yeah.
But last year at the same time, we had that snowstorm. Yeah, that was that did a lot of damage, and I think the Green Waste Department at Logan City is still shredding stuff.
Oh boy,
from last October. Can you believe it?
Yeah,
there was so much damage and so many branches to be taken care of that I think they're still working on it.
Branches were already the trees had not shed their leaves
no,
yet. So,
no. So we're kind of in the same boat right now. But leaves are starting to really change. Some beautiful colors up the canyon.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So just gorgeous to see those colors around. And
now this I know this isn't gardening talk, but is that it seems like the mountains it's extended up there. It's usually done by this time, right?
Yeah. So again, later start to the season, kind of push things back. Even though we had a really hot, dry summer, it's extended a little bit further, and we're seeing the same thing with our trees and the color that they're producing right now as well too. So it's a great time to be outside, great time to enjoy the beautiful weather, and get out there and take advantage of it. Take advantage of it for sure. So So not too bad.
The cold stuff is coming.
Yeah. So it is coming. Some great things happening at Anderson Seed and Garden right now. So we've got beautiful flowering mums on sale right now, and they are gorgeous and in full bloom. And it's a great time of year to get those planted. They'll give you some nice color right now, but then they'll winter over and they'll be blooming for you the same time next year as well too. So we've got some larger mums in, so they're not just in 1 gallon, they're more in like 2-gallon containers, and they are normally $19.99. And we got a special price on them from our grower, and so we're doing them for 70% off.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're in full bloom. They're gorgeous. They're not bloomed out. They don't look crummy. They look gorgeous. And at 70% off, it makes them about $6 for those bigger mums. So come and get them. Come in and take advantage.
Mums, not the word. Yeah. The word is out on the mums.
Yes, we love those mums. They are beautiful for some nice fall colors. And there's gold, and there is purples, and there's rusty colors, and oranges, and so we've got a lot of great fall colors in those mums, and they are blooming and looking really good right now. But 70% off on those. The remaining trees and shrubs and roses and evergreens that we've got in stock, those are 70% off right now as well too. And so that's our cash sale. So if you pay with cash, you get that 70% off. So it's a great way to take advantage of special sales we've got going on right now. Get some really good deals and add a few plants to your landscape as well too.
Yeah, that's right.
So not too bad. But our grower is, they always grow a whole bunch of mums and asters and different perennials for fall, and they just have extras this year. So they got a whole bunch of extras. So they gave us a great deal on them, and so we're passing that savings on to the rest of our customers. So
how long does this continue?
Until they're gone.
Yeah.
And we just got a new batch in, not yesterday, but the day before. So we got them on Thursday.
They'll go fast.
They look really good. So we're going to put some out in front of the store because there's a lot of traffic on Saturdays there on Center Street. And the flowers on Center Street still look amazing. It looks really great down there. So come down, enjoy the weather, get out there, feel the sunshine on your face for the last time this year.
Well, it's the last weekend for the Gardeners Market.
It really is. It's the last weekend for the Gardeners Market, so get out and enjoy that too. Come over to Center Street, grab a bite to eat, have a great a great time hanging out there on Center Street, and come check out our mums as well too. So we got to take a really short break.
Okay.
But we'll be back to answer more questions, and we'll be here.
Now is the time to build with Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store in Logan. For almost 30 years, Metal Mart has strived to be the industry leader in selection and service when it comes to metal products. At Metal Mart, we want to help you bring your projects to life with our selection of steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products. Even if you just need a few pieces, you'll find it at everyone's metal store. Now, when we say everyone's metal store, we mean it. Projects big or small, Metal Mart can serve them all. This time of year, many customers are wanting to get projects done before winter. Metal Mart is ready to help you get those jobs done. Call Metal Mart today in Logan, 435-363-9001. And let's get started on your next metal project. You'll love working with our experienced sales team. So remember, if you need metal, call Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store. Online at palmersmetalmart.com. You'll love the selection and service. See you soon at everyone's metal store, Metal Mart, in Lehigh and Logan.
We are back with the Garden Guide. Sorry we had to take a little short, quick break there, but stuff happens from time to time, and we have.
This is live radio.
This is live radio, yeah. So we
never know what's going to happen.
Had to jump on that, but you know what? It's been a gorgeous fall. We're enjoying a wonderful harvest. I just harvested all my squash. We're going to be winterizing our roses here pretty soon, so it's time to winterize the roses. This week, after I harvested my squash, I started prepping the garden to till it and get it ready for next year, so that's definitely something we should be talking about on the show today. And it's still a great time to control weeds and to get some fertilizer on your lawn. So with these nice daytime temperatures, the weed killers are just working so effectively right now. So whether it's weeds in your garden, you just want to kill the whole thing, weeds and grasses, we can do kills all or decimate, or if you're trying to get rid of weeds in your lawn, dandelions or clover or mallow or morning glory, we've seen just tons of burr buttercup and puncture vine as well too. They're just rampant. This is the best time of year to control those weeds because our daytime temperatures are just perfect for that. And the weeds can feel winter coming on, and so they're taking a lot of that energy in their leaves and they're running it down in the root system to store it and to hold it for the winter time to feed them all winter long. And so they'll just pick up that herbicide and go right down into the root zone as well too. So if you've got questions or comments, you'd like to join us on the Garden Guide. We're talking about bulbs, we're talking about garlic, weeds, prepping the garden, harvesting squash, onions, potatoes, carrots, roses, how to winterize your roses. We can talk about all those things on the show today. Call in with your questions or comments, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868. So starting to get calls already. So
yeah,
who's our first?
Deanne.
All right, that sounds great. Good morning, Deanne. Good morning, Deanne. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Thank you very much. I have got 2 fencefuls of raspberries, and they're as tall as me and so bushy.
Yes.
And I've had some really good ones and made lots of jam. But how do I cut them down now?
That is a great question. I have fielded that question multiple times this week, so it's not just you that is wondering about that. Usually in the fall, I do minimal pruning. And so if the canes are really tall and you're afraid if we get a lot of snow this year, and we're going to get a lot of snow this year, we are hopeful.
Hope so.
We are hopeful here at the Garden Guide that we're going to get lots of snow. If you're afraid that it might kind of crush those canes and do some damage, then I would recommend you maybe trim them down to about 4 feet, and just take the tops off. And the problem is if you prune too much in the fall, you end up having to prune again in the spring because you'll have some winter damage, and you end up pruning them even more aggressively than you did already. And so I prefer not to do too much pruning in the fall, just what is necessary. And then in the springtime is when I get a little bit more aggressive with them. Are they ever-bearing? Did they produce this fall?
Uh-huh.
All right, so if you wanted to and you just want a nice fall crop, you could trim those right down to the ground and just take all that growth out and just trim them right down to the ground, and then you won't get much of a summer crop, if any, but then you'll get a really heavy fall crop again. With the everbearing, yeah. But if you want a summer crop, then just trim them down to about 4 feet or so in the fall. And then I like to fertilize them and do a little bit of iron right now too. So every time I prune, I fertilize. All right. So every time I do some pruning, I fertilize. And so in the fall, we'll trim them just a little bit, fertilize, a little bit of iron. Iron sulfate would be great. Dr. Iron, Iron Plus from High Yield. Those would all be great options for a fall fertilizer. And then in the spring, we'll trim them down to about 3 feet. And where you trim those down, those canes from this year, next year, they're the ones that will produce in the middle of the summer. And so in the spring, we'll trim those down to 3 feet, fertilize and iron again, maybe iron chelate in the spring. It's a little bit quicker. And then after they're done producing in the middle of summer, we'll cut all those old canes out that produced, once this year, and then once again in the middle of summer next year. They're done. They're not going to produce anymore. And so we cut those canes out right down to the ground in the middle of summer, and then let the new ones come up that started next spring. Let those new ones come up, and then they'll produce in the fall for you. And so I fertilize them again in the middle of summer when I prune again. So usually I'm fertilizing 2 or 3 times a year.
My goodness, that was good. Thank you so very much.
You are welcome. I'm glad your berries produced really well. It was not a great season for berries. It was so hot. Yeah, it was really hot. Yeah, it was really hot and not as much moisture, and they just kind of struggled. And I think a lot of berries the blossoms got frozen when they were coming out in May because we just had such cold, wet weather this spring. It was a little rough on them. So I'm so glad you had a great harvest.
You betcha. Thank you so much for your advice.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. You have a wonderful weekend, Deanne.
And you too.
All right. Thanks. All right. We've got phone lines open, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, and 1-800-369-5868. We would love to have you call in and join us here on the Garden Guide. talk raspberries, we can talk strawberries, harvesting squash, harvesting onions, harvesting potatoes. It's that time of year, and I'm going to leave my carrots. Well, we have left them in the ground before, but the last couple of years we've dug them up and put them in totes in the garage, and they've been wonderful. They've been so great. And so I layer them in totes with sand. And then when I want to use those carrots in the wintertime, like say for Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving or whenever it is, I've got them in the totes in the garage. It's a lot easier to get to them instead of tromping out and cleaning snow and leaves and everything up, and it worked out great. Except this year in February it got so cold that the cold penetrated into my carrots and it froze them and it damaged them. So I got to figure out a little bit different location for my carrots this year because they got frozen last year and then they were done. But they were amazing up until that point. And when you store them in totes like that, I just layer them. So I'll put an inch or two of sand in the bottom, then a layer of carrots, and then another inch or two of sand, and then another layer of carrots. And we just layer the carrots all the way through those big totes. And it's like a 40-gallon tote, and so we can put a lot of carrots in there. It weighs about 400 pounds by the time we're done with it. You don't want to move it. Yeah. So you want to put it in a spot where you're going to go, okay, this is going to stay all winter long because you can't move the dumb thing. It's so heavy. But then I'll just go out there and just take the lid off and just kind of dig down through the sand with my fingers and just pulling carrots out like crazy. And they're just like you dug them out of the ground to eat them. Yeah, they're so good that way. And we did beets that way last year as well too.
Oh, good.
And the beets worked wonderfully the same way, except when they got frozen. Yeah, so when they got frozen, and I had them covered with an insulating blanket and some other stuff, and it was so cold in February, it just froze all of our stuff.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was kind of rude. Oh well. We've got phone lines open, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, and you are welcome to call in with questions or comments. Join our conversation, and we've got another caller, Bill.
We have Marilyn.
All right. Good morning, Marilyn. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much. My questions are concerning when is it time to turn off the water for the lawn and for the bushes and roses that we have, and the last fertilizing for both. Is there a cutoff time for that?
That is a great question. Great question. So I've got my water system still on because we have had a couple weeks of dry weather, but I'm not watering every other day. We're watering like every 5 to 6 days. Pretty much just we're down to like once a week. And so we've got the sprinklers doing a full water, but they're only going once a week right now. And the lawn is happy and the soil is moist. In fact, I went out there this morning and the sprinklers had just gone off. I think it was Thursday night. And there's some good soil moisture out in the flower beds. I was looking at my peach tree and my nectarine tree, and they kind of pick up some of that water from the sprinklers as well too. And I was hoping I didn't have to go water those because it's been a little bit dry, and the soil was nice and moist around those. So I was just like, okay, these guys are great. Maybe I'll water my trees on my hillside another time or two, depending on what the weather does. But it's important that we get a good deep watering on trees and shrubs as late as possible into the fall so that there's some good soil moisture there for them when the ground freezes in November. And so I will probably not shut my water system down till closer to Halloween, and I'll try and do a good heavy watering, but it just depends on what the weather does. I mean, we're not seeing really cold temperatures right now, and so it will just depend on if we get some really nasty weather before the end of this month, but probably another week or two, and then I'll start shutting mine down as well too, and then we get them winterized in November so that they're cleaned out and we don't have any freezes or breaks. When it comes to fertilizing, though, the later the better. So I like to put my last fertilizer for the lawn on between Halloween and Thanksgiving. And sometimes I'll push it as late as into the first part of December if the weather is still really nice, because then that fertilizer will sit out there all winter and feed the lawn all through the winter months, and it will help the root system recover and the stems of the grass recover, and grass will just be in great shape next spring. When the snow melts off, it'll be just like ready to grow and really healthy and ready to take off for the whole season. Shrubs, roses, really good time to fertilize those from like now until, again, the ground freezes. And so we're winterizing roses right now with magnesium sulfate, potash, and sulfur. And that works great to keep them a little bit hardier through the winter time and to help them prepare to bloom again next year. So if you've got some blooming shrubs like, let's say, hydrangeas, that would be a great combination to put on the hydrangeas as well too. It's really good for lilacs, for any of your blooming shrubs that you want to look really good next year. The combination of magnesium sulfate, potash, and sulfur really makes them hardier through the wintertime, but it really helps them so that they'll bloom like crazy again next year as well too. So it's kind of time to start putting everybody to bed. It's happening.
And so,
yeah.
So you're clarify just a little bit.
You bet.
We've had 30 degrees at night around here, but then warm during the day. So does it need to be a hard freeze? Is like 3 days of below freezing during the day?
Hard freeze will usually do some damage to, like, say, squash or like, say you've got some apples out there you haven't harvested yet, but they can handle a light frost. So anything like 28, 29 degrees and higher that's not too, like it doesn't last all night, but just, temperatures drop at 5 o'clock in the morning and stay kind of cold. That's usually when it's the coldest. That would be a light frost. A hard frost is when we start getting into the mid-20s and lower, and that's going to do damage to, like, your fruit. So that's why I harvested my squash, because I want to make sure those don't get damaged, because I've got so many. I got harvested 3 6 cubic foot wheelbarrows full of winter squash, and so I it's more squash than we could possibly eat, and I don't want it to get damaged because I want to share it with some people. So I harvested those because I don't want them to get hit with the next frost, because it's going to probably be really cold. We're in a little more protected location, and so we haven't gotten that cold yet, but when it starts to consistently freeze every night, that's when the ground's going to start to freeze as well too, and that's going to stop grass seed from germinating. It's going to really start to shut plants down, and at that point, that's when you want to have all your plants winterized and ready to go, and have some good soil moisture out there, so that when the ground does freeze, the soil retains that moisture through the wintertime, so your trees and your shrubs will be able to pick up that little bit of moisture all through the winter if we don't have any, like, snow melt throughout the wintertime, or if we have a dry winter again, which is always a possibility, but we are hopeful for a lot of snow this year. So
question about length of lawn.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's people who say, oh, no, it should be really trimmed very short, so there's no leaves, nothing, on top.
Yes.
When the snow comes. And others say, no, it needs to be, it's healthier when it's longer, and it can absorb more moisture when it's longer. What's your advice on that?
Again, a great question. Through the season, we adjust the height of our mower depending on what time of year it is. And so for fall, once we get to the end of September, 1st of October, I start dropping my lawnmower deck a notch every time we mow. And the last time we mow, optimally, it would be wonderful if I could go out there and mow it today and dust my hands off and go, I'm done for the year. That would be amazing. I would love it. But that doesn't always happen. And so I try and mow as late as possible and mow as close as possible. So you want to trim that grass down really short for the fall and the winter time. And there's a couple reasons why. Voles is the number one culprit throughout the wintertime for damage on the lawn. And if your grass is tall, the grass kind of crushes down a little bit when the snow comes, but it leaves a pocket of air, but where the grass doesn't just kind of compact down all the way. And so it leaves this little pocket where the voles can just have a party all winter long out there. And so if your grass is shorter, the snow will compact down harder against the soil, and there'll be less of a pocket there for the voles to enjoy your grass all winter long. And so cut it close to help with vole damage, And then it also helps with diseases. And so if the grass is really tall and shaggy and it's like that through the wintertime, you'll be more likely to have disease and other problems in the spring. And it's much easier to clean up in the spring if your grass was cut closely in the fall. And so it helps with disease. The grass will actually grow a little bit underneath the snow, and so you can cut it really, really close in the fall, and in the spring it will be taller than it was when you cut it. And you'll realize at that point that the grass actually grew through the wintertime, in underneath the snow. And so you want it really short in the wintertime, and then in the spring when I do my first mowing, I cut it close again at that point too. And as the weather warms up in the spring, I start raising the blade so that when we get hotter temperatures, my blade's up as high as it will go. And I do that through the summertime because it will help the soil retain moisture, and the grass will develop a deeper root system. It'll be able to utilize the water a little bit better. But for fall, we want it close, almost scalped. So.
Wow, this is really helpful.
I hope so.
Wonderful.
I hope so, Marilyn.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a good one.
Thanks for calling this morning. You have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. All right, we are kind of at the bottom of the hour. Bill, do you want to take a quick break?
Yes,
and we can take a little break here. I'll get a drink of water, and we will be back here at the Garden Guide in just a few minutes. But you're welcome to call in with questions or comments. 753-5868, 753-KVNU, and we'll be back in just a few minutes here on the Garden Guide.
KBNU News. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The Sexual Assault and Anti-Violence Information Office, known as SAVI at USU, has many events this month, including the Clothesline Project that's going on. And on KBNU's For the People program this past week, the coordinator for SAVI, Felicia Gallegos, talked about a major event coming up on October 21st.
We are hosting our second annual Lauren McCluskey Memorial Walk. For those of you who may not have remembered, Lauren McCluskey was a University of Utah track student who was murdered on campus in 2018 by a former dating partner. And so we partner with the U and several other universities across the state to take a moment not only to host an event that not only recognizes and remembers Lauren McCluskey, but all of those that we've lost to domestic violence.
You can find out more at usu.edu/SAVI. That's SAAVI. Also this past week was the groundbreaking for the new Logan Station 70. And as Logan Mayor Holly Dane started to speak at the ceremony, fire trucks were called out on a call across the street.
Well, there they go. I don't think that was staged. Aren't we glad? I mean, that is the perfect reminder of why we are here today. Because a good part of what cities do is public safety. And whether it's our police department or our wonderful fire department, they are the folks who are there on your very worst day.
Fire Chief Brad Hennig said the new building should be completed by next fall. Mostly fair weather all weekend long. For the latest news, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
From ABC Sports, I'm Brian Clark. The Padres made it worth the wait in their first home playoff game in 16 years. They jumped on top of the Dodgers in the first inning with a Jake Cronenworth RBI single. Then in the fourth, Trent Grisham looked to extend the lead.
Grisham swings, hits it in the air. Deep right field, forget it! Trent Grisham, gonna go!
The call on KWFN, Los Angeles got one back, but the Padres hung on to win 2-1. Game 2 of the American League Division Series between the Yankees and Guardians got off to a good start for the home team. Giancarlo Stanton crushed the 2-run home run in the first inning, but those 2 runs were all the Yankees would get. Cleveland got 1 in the 4th and tied it in the 5th. It would stay that way until the top of the 10th.
Breaking ball swung on a blooper to right. Coming on is Judge, and it drops a base hit. And the Guardians take a 3-2 lead.
The call on WTAM, the Guardians would add another and beat New York 4-2. This is ABC Sports.
Senior Moments
Sponsored by the Empowering Seniors Group on News Talk KVNU.
My name is Bruce Lee. I'm here with my co-host Sid Roeder. We're here for another fun show.
This radio show is sponsored by the Empowering Seniors Group, which is a group of professionals that has dedicated their time and efforts to provide information that is hopefully useful to seniors, their family members, caretakers, and really anybody who's interested.
Senior Moments, every Saturday morning at 7:30 right here on News Talk KVNU.
Taking the guesswork out of gardening. It's the Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
And the Garden Guide continues on this Saturday morning in mid-October. And once again, here's Mark Anderson.
You know, the weather's been amazing. We've been out harvesting. A lot of people planting grass still because the weather's been great. A lot of weed control going on. It's time to start prepping the garden. We've just got lots of activities that we can enjoy outside. In fact, today I'm going to plant 2 trees in my yard. I have a goal to get my trees planted. I've been trying to for 2 weeks. And it has not happened. So I've got
better do it while the doing is good.
Oh, well, the weather's great. I had people in yesterday buying Christmas lights too, so they could put the lights up. It's like, this is a great day to be outside. It's like it's warm and nice.
73
yesterday. It's like
so,
it's amazing. So I've got a flowering dogwood, which I'm going to plant in our yard because we've had a flowering dogwood for 10 years, and it's very marginal in its hardiness. It's a zone 6, and we're not supposed to be able to get away with zone 6s, but I had it in a perfect protected location. And this winter, it was great until February. And then it had started to kind of bud and grow, and it was so cold for a couple weeks there in February. It killed half of it. In fact, it probably killed about 2/3 of it, and I didn't think it was going to come back. So I ordered a new red flowering dogwood. So it's got these big, gorgeous red flowers on it. Oh, it's so pretty. And so I got to get that planted. And then I have a brand new magnolia as well, too. It's called Felix. And Felix has flowers on it that are supposed to get 10 to 12 inches across. And so it's got huge flowers on it. And this is an extra hardy variety of magnolia, too. So it's that deep purple burgundy flower on it. And really large leaves to it, and so I've got a perfect spot in my yard for that one too. A little bit more protected, but that's a zone 5, so that one's gonna be hardy enough for my location. It should be great, but I gotta keep the deer off of them.
Oh yeah,
the deer will eat all the flower buds off my dogwoods and off my magnolias. Those stupid things.
I don't know. It's hard to build a fence around them that's tall enough.
It is.
Yeah.
So I had a few apple trees and pear trees and some stone fruits that I wanted to winter over for next year. And so we took them home and we have them in our orchard, and they're in pots, so they'll be good for next year. So we'll be able to sell them next year. And the deer in my neighborhood came in just within a day or two and just ate every leaf off of them.
Boy.
Yeah, dumb things, because they were looking great, and now the lower parts of the trees don't have any leaves left on them. Yeah, and it's not because they've fallen off; they have been consumed.
Well,
so,
I hope they enjoy it.
They've been consumed. Yeah, they better. So, beautiful mums in stock right now, and they are on sale. I've got some gorgeous, almost 2-gallon size mums. I think they're in 8-inch pots, and they're normally $19.99. They are in full bloom, gorgeous colors, golds and orange, and I know there's some purples and some rusty colors as well too. And they're normally $19.99. We've got them on sale for 70% off if you pay with cash. So it's a really great deal. We got a great price from our grower, so we're passing the savings on to you as well too. Makes them about $6 for mums, which you can't beat for that big of a plant. It's a great price. And they're in full bloom right now, and they will come back next year, and they will bloom again in the fall for you. So they'll be blooming in September and October for you next year as well, too. So this is a fall blooming mum, and a great addition to your yard right now. And they can handle the cold. If we have some frost, you can handle the frost as well, too. Still have our cash sale going on. There's not many trees and shrubs left, but we still have a few. And so if you need to add a few things to your garden, this is a great time to pick those up. Also 70% off if you pay with cash. And a lot of things happening down at Anderson's. We're redecorating the store for the holidays, and we still have a lot of people getting seeds, getting vegetable seeds for next year since prices are so ugly at the grocery store right now. It's not very nice. Now you have to pay $4 a dozen for eggs. That's kind of ugly.
Have you seen a big influx of people this year with the inflation?
Absolutely, yeah. When you can grow your own and it tastes so good coming out of your garden, and it's a lot less expensive when it comes down to it. I mean, how much is it?
Why not?
How much is it for a bushel of tomatoes over in Tremont right now to go buy it? And I'm harvesting a bushel every week.
Yeah.
And like I said, I picked 3 6-cubic-foot wheelbarrows full of squash the other day, butternut and sweet meat and kabocha, and I've got some new honey babies that I'm so excited to try because they were really, really good last year. And I mean, we'll eat those all winter long. So and carrots, I got enough carrots for all winter. I've got potatoes, onions. We won't have to go to the grocery store except for bread and milk, and
we can all come to your place.
You could come eat at my place. That's right. So it definitely does. It does save some money if you have a garden, a good-sized garden. I mean, it doesn't have to be huge, but a big enough garden to grow a lot of things. And we froze corn, and we bottled beans, and we have a lot of produce coming out of our garden. And most of it, there's so much that we can't consume it all, so we end up sharing with a lot of people as well too. So it does make a difference in your budget when it comes to growing the vegetables out there, for sure. Yeah. We have phone lines open, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, and we do have a caller on the line, too. So who's up next, Bill?
We have Gary.
All right. Good morning, Gary. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Thank you. Good morning. I've got a Cheyenne privet hedge that I trim, but it's got out of control.
Yes.
I'd like to trim it way down, a foot off of it. Can I do that now, or do I wait until it's dormant and do it, or can you even do it?
Now is a really good time to do it. So I would go ahead and do that. It will take a little while for the privet to recover, so you may have some bare spots where you pruned a little bit more aggressively, where you've taken some of the exterior off, but it will put out more leaves. The privet are made to be sheared pretty aggressively, and they'll just kick out more leaves. And so you might have a few months where it's a little sparse in locations, but then by midsummer next year, you probably won't even be able to tell that you've trimmed it. So now's a really good time to do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if I needed to wait until it was dormant, but I can do it right now.
You can do it right now. Yeah, and we're starting to do some pruning on some of the fall trees that we like to prune. So maples and birch, now's a really good time to prune those as well too before it gets too cold, because if you prune them in the spring, the sap flows so much on those trees in the spring, they just bleed like crazy. And so fall's a really good time to do those. And we're starting to do some fruit trees as well too. So I've got a few people that like to get their trees pruned in the fall, so we're doing a little fruit tree pruning too. And you can prune up until the sap freezes inside the trees. But when that sap freezes, it makes the branches so hard that it will do some damage to the trees, and it's hard on your pruners and on your back as well too. So we try and get that done before the sap freezes in the trees, and that's usually in December sometime. So
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, thanks for calling this morning, Gary. You have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Yep.
See ya. Bye.
Anytime. All right, we've got phone lines open, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868. I think last week on the show we talked about fall diseases to control and blister mites on fruits. So apples and pears consistently get blister mites year after year, and they do enough damage to the leaves to make little pock marks all over the leaves, but then they'll transfer to the fruit, and they will make the fruit kind of russety, so the exterior of the fruit can have splotches of like where it looks like a russet potato. It'll get kind of russety on there. And the blister mites winter over in the new buds as the leaves fall off the trees. So this is prime time for controlling blister mites, and it's really easy to do. So usually we'll tell people when your trees get to about 25 to 50% leaf drop, which is getting really close, like this week is probably when the leaves will really start coming off the trees, that's when you want to spray them with dormant oil. So either a horticultural oil or a dormant oil and it will kill the blister mites as they're transferring from the leaves to the new buds that are forming for next year that won't open up until next spring. And so we can control those very easily with a simple application of a dormant oil or a horticultural oil in the next week or two. But at the same time, we can control a lot of diseases that will winter over from this year until next year as well too. So shot hole fungus, bacterial bud blight, fire blight. There's a whole bunch of different diseases that we can control some of the bacteria or fungal spores that will winter over from now until next year and prevent some infection before it even happens. And so I like to mix a disease control in with that horticultural oil or with that dormant oil right now and do them both at the same time. So mix a copper soap and mix that in with your dormant oil. The copper soap from Fertilome would be great. Complete disease control would be excellent. F-Stop from Fertilome would be an awesome choice as well too. So any of those you can mix right in with your dormant spray and control blister mites and control a lot of diseases at the same time. It would do a great job. And you want to do that right when the leaves are really coming off the trees. And if you time it right, you can spray and it will knock the rest of the leaves off your trees, so you can just like gather up the leaves all at once with one shot instead of having to mow the lawn and rake up leaves every other day for the next 3 weeks. So save some work.
There you go. Yeah. That's always
makes a little work for you, but it will save you a lot of work in the long run. So yeah. Who's up next, Bill?
We have Trudy on the line.
Good morning, Trudy. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
Good morning. I'm sorry if somebody already asked this question.
No worries.
But my number one heartache in my yard is what they call goat heads.
Yes.
It's
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with those, yeah.
So obnoxious. They track in the house, and you discover that with your bare feet.
Yep, exactly.
But it's everywhere in the yard. How in the world can I get rid of that stuff?
So the goat heads are commonly known as goat heads, but I think their official name is puncture vine. And the puncture vine has just the most evil seeds on them ever, and they'll go through flip-flops, and they have a little bit of toxin on the pricks, and so it stings like crazy, and so they hurt. But they are fairly easy to control with a broadleaf herbicide. So any of your broadleaf weed killers, Trimec or Weed Free Zone or just even 2,4-D will kill them quite handily. You just have to really watch for them and get them before they flower, because they get little yellow flowers on them, and it seems like they set those burrs, they set really quickly after the blossoms have come out. So just a couple days after they've bloomed, you've got these torturous burrs that come off of those, and so you've got to get them. You got to get them while they're small before they get big.
If they look like they're still in the crawling out vine stage, and you haven't seen any yellow blossoms, I can still kill them.
Kill them. Yep, kill them. And so
I will come in and see you at your store.
Yeah. And some of the other non-selective herbicides work great on them as well too. So Kills-All, Roundup, Decimate, but they'll kill grasses as well too, so you can't use it in the lawn. So if you've got them coming up in the lawn, use the broadleaf herbicide. But when you get out into the garden, I like to use Decimate because it works really fast and it biodegrades out of the soil really quickly. So I can go and very carefully I can go and spray in my garden where I see those guys, because they come up around the edges of my garden and then they sneak into the garden, and I've got them all over the place. And so I can use the Decimate very carefully in there, and it will just kill what you spray it on. But I could plant back in that area a week, less than a week, like 3 or 4 days after you've sprayed, you could go back in and plant right in there. So you do have some really great options, Trudy.
Okay, thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thanks for calling this morning.
Have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show, and phone lines are open, 753-5868, 753-KVNU, and we'd love to have you join us here on The Garden Guide. Who's up next, Bill?
We have Terry.
All right. Good morning, Terry. Welcome to The Garden Guide.
Good morning. Hey, listen, my asters are rather large.
Okay.
And they're starting, and they were only beautiful maybe for 4 days, and then they start falling apart. What does that mean?
That's a great question. And it's like your fall blooming asters, purple flowers on them.
Right.
Okay. Right. If they're really really tall, are they like extra tall?
Yeah. You know what? I probably should split them. And same with my mom.
How long have they been there?
Oh, 10 years.
So it probably is time to split them and move them a little bit.
So does that just mean that's what it's telling me is take care of
they're
them?
probably just a little overgrown. Yeah, and the root system gets so big, you could just dig the whole clump up. You could cut it into quarters or sixths or eighths or whatever. So you have a nice softball sized chunk. And you could give some to your neighbors down the street and give some to the people next door.
Same with my garden mums?
Yeah.
Because they're huge, too, and falling apart.
Yeah. So you do both of those the same. Wait until they're done blooming. Trim them right down to the ground. Yes, trim them down so there's like an inch of stem left on them. Just like take everything off because then you don't have to worry about cleaning it up next year. And then like the next 3 or 4 weeks, perfect time to just dig those up, divide them, transplant them right back. Get rid of all the excess, because after that long, they're really going to be overgrown, and they're going to be they're competing with each other for nutrient and water, and sometimes you'll get, especially with like iris, they'll get so overgrown that you get like a center where there's no flowers at all. You just have flowers around the outside, and so some of your perennials, as they get really big, they can do that as well too. And then it's also a really good time when you dig those up to kind of recondition the soil, because after 10 years it could probably use some compost and work that into the soil. It was a good time to fertilize and kind of build your soil back up after so many years of it depleting the nutrient from the soil.
What would you add to it?
Soil building conditioner is probably my favorite, since it's got the finely ground redwood and composted poultry manure and back guano and worm castings, and it'll loosen your soil up. If you have a hard time, if your soil kind of compacts down and it gets kind of hard, some zeolite would be great. It'll keep it from compacting, especially if you've got a lot of clay. So great time to recondition the soil and plant some bulbs in there as well too. So good time for planting bulbs. And that'd be awesome.
I pulled up my iris and split them yesterday.
Okay.
I'm going to put them back in today.
Excellent.
Do I put bone meal with them, or is that just for bulbs?
The iris will not complain at all about the bone meal. The bone meal is a nice, natural, slow-release source of phosphorus. And iris don't need a whole lot of fertilizer, so the bone meal would be great. Any type of a bulb food would be excellent for those as well, too. Something really slow release. And, should be great. Yeah, should be excellent.
Okay, I bought a garden mum from you.
Yeah.
It's done. So can I plant that and it will come back next year?
Absolutely. Yep. So when you're doing your iris, just go and plant it. And where you're transplanting stuff right now, the soil is a little dry if you haven't been watering, and so make sure and water everybody really thoroughly. Maybe a little root stimulator like a Kangaroots or a root stimulator from Fertilome. Those would be great to kind of encourage some root development. And then hit them again with the root stimulator in about a week or 10 days or so, and then they should be great.
I thought I wasn't supposed to fertilize at this point.
Well, the root stimulator is a very mild fertilizer, so we're not going to fertilize a lot. But this is something that would help get that root system reestablished before winter really sets in. And we've done some big plantings as late as latter part of November, early December, and those plants had plenty of time to get established before winter really fully set in. That they just took off again the next year. But it does really help to hit them with the root stimulator right off the bat when you're planting, even later in the fall. Like I'm planting trees today. I'm going to dig my holes extra big. I'm going to work some nice compost into the soil that I put back to backfill with, and then I'm going to water them with the root stimulator, and then I'll water them every time they need to be watered until the winter sets in with that root stimulator. So it's going to end up being 2 or 3 times before winter really shuts things down. But they'll be ready to go next spring if I do that.
Okay.
All right.
I'll do it. Thank
Wonderful.
you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling this morning, Terry. You have a great weekend. Have fun out in your yard.
Okay, thanks.
All right. We'll see you. Bye-bye. Okay, Bill, we got time for another call?
Yes, we do. And we have Gordon calling in from Newton.
Good morning, Gordon. Welcome to the Garden Guide.
How are you doing, guys?
Doing great.
Hey, I had this sort of a volunteer tree that showed up in between me and my neighbor, and it's got these beautiful red leaves and long, interesting flowers in the springtime. We kind of tried to look it up. We think it's a bird cherry. Are you familiar with the bird cherry?
I have heard of the bird cherries before. If you brought me some leaves and maybe a picture of the bark, and if you did take pictures of the flowers in the spring, I would be able to identify it for you more than likely.
I did, and we looked it up, and that was the closest thing we could come with. And it's right behind where I have my bird feeders, so it may have been brought here by a bird. Who knows?
That is a possibility. That is a possibility. But yes, if you want to bring that in, that would be great. We identify plants for people all the time, and a lot of times they'll come in and like, I have Googled this 500 times and I can't figure out what it is, and then we just like, oh, this is, here you go. This is what it is. So so I would be more than happy to help with that, Gordon.
It's a fast grower, and it's interesting. It looks nice. I just thought, do I encourage this, or do I want to get rid of it? So I'll snip one, and I've got to be in town next week. I'll snip one and bring it in with me.
Yeah, if we can identify what it is, then we can also determine whether it's worth keeping or not. Because sometimes it's like, okay, great, got a nice volunteer, free tree, excellent. But then it becomes a bigger problem than you really wanted.
That's our concern, and we're glad to have it if it's one that's not going to just take over. So
exactly.
All right, we'll bring you a sample of that. Now, I have a small complaint.
Okay.
I bought one of the chocolate cherry tomatoes. And they're delicious, but they don't taste like chocolate at all.
They do not have a chocolate flavor, I'm afraid. Yeah, they look a little darker. Hey, we had a couple cherry tomatoes in my garden. I tried a new a golden egg cherry tomato, and my kids just ate it, and they're like, "This sucks, Dad. I just don't like it." And so I don't think we're going to do that one again. But we did do Sun Sugar, which is always a pleaser.
Yep.
We did the cherry chocolate, which definitely tastes more like tomatoes than it does cherry, cherries or chocolate. But it is kind of a red brown color to it. And we also did some Sweet Baby Girl. I grew some Sweet Baby Girls since the seeds getting harder to find. We started some ourselves and planted those, and they've been spectacular as well too. But I'll tell you what, my heirloom tomatoes, they got hammered this year with disease. So all my heirlooms just got the tar beaten out of them. And they just did not do very well. But I planted some new Big Beef Plus, Golden Boy Plus, and some Better Boy Plus, and they are completely disease-free. Like same conditions, same soil, same location, and they have produced and produced and produced like crazy. So this is a new generation of these they're not heirloom varieties, but they are like traditional tomatoes that have been around for 30 years. So Better Boy and Big Beef and Golden Boy, they have just been spectacular tomatoes for years. But the original breeding, the company that did the breeding on those, they have improved them slightly. And this is not genetic improvement. This is just through traditional, hybridization, and they have made them much more disease resistant and a little bit sweeter. So they've got a little higher Brix index, which means they're a little bit sweeter. So the flavor, really great old fashioned flavor, but a little bit sweeter fruit. And I'll tell you what, they have been unbelievable. So I've got seeds for all of those for next year as well too. So.
Oh, we've loved these cherry tomatoes. Both, I think ours were the Sun Sweets and the cherry chocolates, and we love them. The cherry chocolate's a little harder to tell when they're ripe.
They are for sure.
These things are like trees growing on the south side of my house. They are gigantic.
And if you pick the cherry chocolates a little bit too late, they'll split.
Okay.
So they split. So when you pull them off the vine, they split. But my Sweet Baby Girls and my Sun Sugars, man, they just go crazy. They just go nuts.
And my grandkids have discovered them. So the lower ones are usually gone.
You just can't eat them all. There's just so many of them. And my stupid tomato plants are 8 feet tall. They're just huge. And so it's been an interesting growing season. Everything was slow coming on, but now they've been producing, and now I wish they'd stop.
Well, we may get the frost in the next couple weeks,
coming.
And that'll be a moot point.
Coming.
So.
Yep, it's coming. Okay, Gordon, I wish the snowiest winter on you possible, and
we would love to have that. We'd like to fill Newton Dam back up.
So. Thank you so much for calling in. It's always a pleasure visiting with you. So.
Okay, talk to you later.
Thank you. All right, Bill, we're kind of there at the end of the show, not the bottom of the hour.
Top of the hour.
Yeah, top of the hour, end of the show, all that good stuff. So thanks to everyone who has called in with questions or comments. I really appreciate the phone calls. We got to cover a lot of great things. Mums are on sale. They're 70% off right now. Got a gorgeous selection that just came in. Still have some trees and shrubs. We're decorating the store like crazy. Center Street looks amazing. Come see us at Anderson Seed and Garden. It's a great time of year to be outside. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the fall beauty that we have here in Cache Valley, and we'll be back again next week with another edition of The Garden Guide.
Covering all the news. Stay with 610 AM and 102.1 FM. Breaking news and stimulating talk. KVNU Logan.